The Indian Prime Minister arrives at the White House for his third meeting with the President. The two statesmen have a quiet stroll in the White House gardens. During a 1.5-hour meeting, they have conferred in greater detail on areas which were previously covered in the two earlier meetings. The Washington home of Senator John Sherman Cooper, former United States Ambassador to India. Mr. Nehru calls on the Coopers. Old friendships are renewed. Later in the day, at the Indian Embassy, Mr. Nehru addresses Indian nationals in Washington. He explains to them the implications of non-alignment, which means an independent stand on world problems. He speaks of the developments in India, the phenomenal growth of education, and the changes Panchayat Raj is bringing about in rural areas. The Prime Minister asks Indian students in the United States not to lose sight of their obligations to their motherland, but to work for its prosperity. The Prime Minister is guest of honor at a state dinner given by the United States Secretary of State, Mr. Dean Rusk. The guest and the host meet the invitees. The dinner is held in the resplendent Benjamin Franklin dining room. Speeches made by Mr. Nehru and Mr. Rusk on the occasion underscore the common ideals of India and the United States. Mr. Rusk takes Mr. Nehru round Benjamin Franklin's room. Philosopher, statesman, and man of letters, Benjamin Franklin was one of the founding fathers of the United States. November the 9th, Mr. Nehru is the guest at a lunch given by the National Press Club, Washington. America's fourth estate is present in full force. In a brief speech, the president of the National Press Club welcomes Mr. Nehru. Thanking the club for its hospitality, the Indian Prime Minister says,
I must say, it is a slightly intimidating experience to meet so many of members of the press whose words not only go across the United States but to all parts of the world. But I was happy to visit you on the previous occasions, and I am happy to be here today to meet many people whose names I have read or heard of, and to know them in person.
The Prime Minister then speaks of India's past and present and its conditioning influence on generations of Indians. He mentions the importance of geography in a country's policy and calls for a peaceful approach to world problems. Question time begins, and a flood of questions for the Prime Minister.
As the acknowledged leader of the neutralist bloc of nations, what is your opinion of the continued nuclear blasting by the USSR?
Well, the answer is there is no neutralist bloc. Secondly, I am not the leader of anybody. If you like, my people have done me the honor of putting me in a very responsible position in India, so I can claim to speak on behalf of India, but not on behalf of any other country. I don't presume to be leader of any other, and I have no desire to be leader of any other country. My desire is to cooperate with them, certainly try to influence them sometimes, according to my thinking. As for the resumption of nuclear tests by the Soviet Union, I have often stated that I have thought it a very harmful, disastrous thing, for a variety of reasons. Apart from the harm it actually causes, it brings about a war psychosis.
This question follows, do you think you can deal with Russia and the U.S. on the same moral plane?
One doesn't deal with countries, one deals with problems. So we can't answer a question like this about a country being dealt with on a moral plane. It's the action of a country that may be considered, you may agree or disagree with it.